The message traveled across the galaxy at light speed, carrying humanity's final words of peace to 17 different star systems. Commander Jake Harrison stood in the communication center on Earth's moon base, watching the transmission counter tick down to 0. His hands were steady as he pressed the send button, but his heart was heavy with the knowledge of what would come next. The holographic recorder had captured every word, every expression on his weathered face. Jake had served in the military for 22 years, but he had never delivered a message quite like this one. Behind him, dozens of technicians worked quietly at their stations, all of them knowing that this moment would be remembered forever. "This is Commander Jake Harrison of the United Earth Defense Force," his recorded voice began. The message would reach the Zephyrian Empire first, then the Kalos Federation, and finally the powerful Nexus Alliance. "I speak for all of humanity today. This is our final warning to your governments and military forces." Jake had practiced the words many times, but they still felt strange on his tongue. Humans had always been the weaker species in this part of the galaxy. They had smaller ships, simpler weapons, and no real allies among the major powers. For 3 years they had tried diplomacy, trade agreements, and peaceful negotiations. Nothing had worked. "Withdraw your military fleets from all human colony worlds immediately," the message continued. "Release the 2,000 civilians you have taken prisoner from our outer settlements. Remove the blockades that are preventing food and medical supplies from reaching our people. We do not want war, but we will no longer accept attacks on innocent men, women, and children." The alien governments had been testing humanity for months now. Small raids on remote colonies, captured supply, ships, demands for tribute and submission. Each time the humans had responded with diplomatic protests and requests for peaceful solutions. The aliens had interpreted this as weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. 12 light-years away, High Admiral Vex received the human transmission in his crystal palace on the Zephyrian homeworld. His species looked like living glass sculptures. Beautiful and cold, Vex had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries, and he had conquered dozens of primitive worlds. The humans were just another stepping stone in his empire's expansion. "Play the message again," Vex commanded his aide, a younger Zephyrian named Krell. The hologram of Jake Harrison appeared in the center of the room, speaking his words of warning with quiet determination. Vex laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Look at this creature," he said to the other military leaders gathered around him. "He stands there in his simple uniform, on his primitive moon base, and thinks he can threaten us. Their entire species has fewer ships than we have in a single battle group." General Morak, one of Vex's oldest commanders, studied the human with interest. "Sir, our intelligence reports say they have been developing new technologies. Perhaps we should consider their request." "New technologies?" Vex waved a crystalline hand dismissively. "We have studied their capabilities extensively. Nuclear weapons that we developed millennia ago, fusion reactors that barely power their largest ships, projectile weapons that cannot penetrate our basic shields. What could they possibly create that would concern us?" The other Zephyrian leaders nodded in agreement. Their empire had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and military might. They had energy weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could travel faster than light without strain, shields that could deflect any known weapon. Humans were like children playing with sticks and stones. On the reptilian world of Kalos Prime, General Korthak received the same message with equal contempt. His species had evolved from apex predators, and they understood only strength and dominance. The Scaled Warrior had personally led the raid on the human colony of New Boston, capturing 300 civilians who now worked in Kalos mining operations. "Send a response," Korthak ordered his communication officer. "Tell the humans they have 3 days to surrender completely or we will destroy their homeworld." The officer hesitated. "Sir, should we not discuss this with the council first?" Korthak's yellow eyes blazed with anger. "The council put me in charge of human affairs. These mammals have no fleet capable of threatening us. Their home planet has only basic orbital defenses. Why waste time on discussion when we can simply take what we want?" But it was the response from the Nexus Alliance that truly sealed humanity's fate. The Alliance was the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy, a confederation of 12 different species that had achieved perfect technological harmony. Their ships were works of art, their weapons were precisely engineered, and their military tactics had never failed in 800 years of expansion. Admiral Zorin, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, reviewed the human message with his strategic council. Unlike the others, Zorin actually felt some regret about the coming conflict. Their request is reasonable, he admitted to his fellow commanders. But our expansion plans require the resources of their colony worlds. The humans simply happen to be in the way of progress. Commander Nexus, speaking through a mechanical interface, provided the final analysis. Our combined intelligence assessment shows that humanity possesses no technology or strategy that could pose a meaningful threat to our alliance. Their total military strength equals approximately 0.03% of our combined forces. Victory is mathematically certain. The response that came back to Earth was brief and insulting. All three alien governments had rejected the human ultimatum. Worse, they had increased their attacks on human colonies and captured even more civilians. The message was clear: humanity would submit or be destroyed. Dr. Lisa Murphy stood in her underground laboratory on the moon, reading the alien responses on her computer screen. As head of the Emergency Defense Initiative, she had been working on theoretical weapons projects for 2 years, hoping they would never be needed. Now she knew they would be humanity's only hope for survival. She turned to her team of scientists and engineers, men and women who had been pulled from universities and research centers across Earth. They looked tired and worried, but also determined. They had all lost friends or family members in the alien attacks. "Well," Lisa said quietly, her voice carrying clearly in the silent laboratory. "They want to see what humans are capable of when we're threatened with extinction. I think it's time we showed them exactly what 3 billion years of evolution can produce when survival is on the line." The alien governments had made their choice. They had dismissed human warnings, ignored human requests for peace, and chosen war over negotiation. They had done so because they believed humans were too weak, too primitive, and too few to matter in the grand scheme of galactic politics. In making that choice, they had forgotten one crucial fact about the species they were threatening. Humans had never been the strongest or fastest or most advanced species on their own planet, but they had still climbed to the top of the food chain through one crucial advantage. They never stopped adapting, learning, and fighting until they won. The aliens were about to discover that some warnings should be taken seriously, especially when they come from a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars by refusing to surrender. The hunt was about to begin, and this time, humans would be the predators. 3 months had passed since the alien governments rejected humanity's final warning. In that time, the galaxy had seen attacks on 12 more human colonies. The aliens had captured another 800 civilians and destroyed 3 supply convoys carrying medicine to sick children on the outer worlds. They thought they were winning a quick war against a helpless enemy. They had no idea what was actually happening. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of his ship, the Relentless, watching the stars through the main view screen. His vessel looked almost the same as it had 6 months ago, but everything inside had changed. The old fusion reactor had been replaced with something that should have been impossible to build with human technology. The weapons systems used principles that human scientists had only dreamed about before the war began. "Captain, we are approaching the Kepler 442 system," said Lieutenant Amy Walsh from the navigation station. She was 26 years old and had been flying transport ships between Earth and the colonies before the war started. Now she was helping to hunt alien patrol fleets across the galaxy. Ryan nodded and turned to his tactical officer. "What do our sensors show, Lieutenant?" 5. Zephyrian cruisers on patrol at the edge of the system, sir. They are following a standard search pattern, probably looking for human supply ships to attack. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful and deadly. Each one was 3 times larger than the Relentless, with energy shields that could stop nuclear weapons and plasma cannons that could melt through solid rock. Their sensors could detect enemy ships from millions of miles away, and their computers could calculate attack solutions faster than any human pilot could think. But the Zephyrians had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that human technology would remain the same while they were busy conquering human worlds. They had not considered what might happen if desperate humans started studying captured alien equipment and improving it with their own ideas. "Amy, take us to stealth mode," Ryan ordered. "I want to get close enough to scan their shield frequencies." The Relentless seemed to fade from existence. Its hull became covered with a coating that bent light around the ship, making it invisible to normal sensors. The technology had been stolen from a damaged Zephyrian scout ship and then improved by human engineers who understood that sometimes the best weapon was the one your enemy could not see. As they moved closer to the alien patrol, Ryan thought about the changes that had happened to his crew and his ship. Dr. Lisa Murphy and her team had been working day and night for 3 months, taking apart every piece of alien technology they could find. They had learned how alien shields worked, how their weapons generated power, and how their computers processed information. More importantly, they had learned how to make those systems better. "We are in scanning range, sir," reported Ensign Bobby Chen from the sensor station, beginning detailed analysis of their defensive systems. The Relentless carried scanning equipment that the Zephyrians had never seen before. It could analyze the exact frequency of energy shields, map the power distribution systems of enemy ships, and record the timing patterns of their weapon systems. All of this information would be transmitted back to Earth, where other human ships would use it to plan future attacks. "Their shields are operating on a rotating frequency pattern," Bobby reported. "I am detecting 3 primary harmonics with a cycle time of 47 seconds. Their weapon systems are drawing power from 4 separate fusion reactors with automatic backup systems that activate in 2.3 seconds if the primary systems fail." Ryan smiled grimly. The aliens had built their ships to fight other aliens who use similar technology and tactics. They had not designed them to fight an enemy that treated every battle as a learning experience and shared that knowledge with every other human ship in space. "Prepare to engage," Ryan ordered. "Remember, we are not trying to destroy them today. We want to test their response times and see how they adapt to unexpected tactics." The Relentless appeared suddenly on the edge of the Zephyrian formation, its weapons already charged and targeted. But instead of trying to penetrate the alien shields, the human ship fired specialized projectiles designed to gather information about shield harmonics and energy distribution patterns. The Zephyrian ships responded exactly as their programming dictated. They turned to face the threat, raised their shields to maximum power, and prepared their plasma cannons for battle. Their computers calculated the best attack formation based on 800 years of military doctrine and previous battle experience. What their computers could not calculate was how to fight an enemy that had spent 3 months studying their weaknesses and developing new tactics specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. The human ship fired again, this time with weapons that had never existed before the war began. The projectiles passed through the Zephyrian shields without causing any damage, but they carried sensors that recorded everything about the alien defensive systems. Within seconds, the Relentless had complete technical specifications for every piece of equipment on all 5 enemy ships. "Data packet transmitted to Fleet Command," Amy reported. "All information has been uploaded to the tactical database." The Zephyrian ships fired their plasma cannons, sending streams of superheated energy toward the human vessel. But the Relentless was no longer where their sensors indicated it should be. The human ship had used micro-jump technology to move several thousand miles in an instant, something that alien scientists had declared impossible due to power requirements. "Sir, the Zephyrians are trying to surround us," Bobby reported. "They have spread out in a standard encirclement pattern." Ryan nodded. "Let them think they have us trapped. Continue scanning their movement patterns and communication frequencies. I want to know how they coordinate their attacks." For the next 10 minutes, the Relentless played a deadly game of cat and mouse with the Zephyrian patrol. The human ship would appear, scan the alien vessels, gather new information, and then vanish before the aliens could bring their superior firepower to bear. Each time the Zephyrians tried a new tactic, the humans would record it and add it to their growing database of alien military behavior. Finally, Ryan decided they had learned enough for one day. Amy, plot a course out of the system. Use jump pattern 7. The Relentless vanished from the Kepler 442 system as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind 5 confused but unharmed Zephyrian ships. The alien commanders sent urgent reports back to their headquarters, describing an impossible human vessel that could become invisible, move faster than their sensors could track, and fire weapons that somehow passed through their shields without causing damage. High Admiral Vex read the reports with growing unease. They attacked our patrol but did not try to destroy our ships, he said to his advisors. What kind of military strategy is this? General Morak, who had always been more cautious than his commander, studied the tactical data carefully. Sir, I believe they were gathering information about our capabilities. This was not an attack. It was reconnaissance. Vex dismissed the suggestion with an angry gesture. Impossible. Humans do not have the technology for such advanced operations. This must have been some kind of equipment malfunction on our ships. But deep down, Vex was beginning to worry. The humans had given them a warning 3 months ago, and since then, strange reports had been coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships that appeared and vanished without warning. Attacks that seemed designed to gather information rather than cause damage. Most disturbing of all, rumors that human technology was advancing at an impossible rate. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Murphy received the data from the Relentless with satisfaction. Her team now had complete technical specifications for the most advanced Zephyrian military hardware. Within hours, that information would be distributed to every human ship in the fleet, along with tactical recommendations for how to defeat Zephyrian defenses. How many more ships do we need to scan before we can guarantee victory? Asked her assistant, Dr. Carl Webb. Lisa looked at the data streaming across her computer screens. We have analyzed 43 different classes of alien vessels so far. I estimate we need information on perhaps 50 more ship types before we can be certain of defeating any combined alien fleet. Carl nodded, then asked the question that everyone was thinking. And how long will that take? Lisa smiled for the first time in months. At our current rate of progress, about 6 more weeks, then we can begin the real hunt. 6 months after the rejected warning, Colonel Ben Carter led his team through the dark corridors of the Kalos military base on Proxima Centauri B. The alien fortress was built deep underground, protected by energy barriers, automated defense systems, and over 1,000 Kalos soldiers. It was supposed to be impossible for humans to reach, let alone capture. The 50 Marines following Ben knew better. They had spent weeks studying the layout of this facility, analyzing every weakness, and preparing for exactly this kind of mission. Their armor was no longer the simple metal plates they had worn at the beginning of the war. Now they carried personal shield generators taken from defeated alien soldiers and improved with human engineering. Kate, how much time do we have before they notice the power drain? Ben whispered into his communication device. Sergeant Kate. Rivers was crouched next to the main power junction, carefully attaching a device that looked like it had been built from spare parts and alien technology. 2 minutes, sir. Maybe 3 if we are lucky. Kate had been an electrical engineer before the war, working on power grids for the outer colonies. Now she was part of a special team that had spent months learning how Kalos technology worked. The aliens used incredibly advanced power systems, but they had one major weakness. They were designed for efficiency, not for dealing with unexpected problems. Chris, are your people in position? Ben asked through the communication system. Lieutenant Chris Johnson checked his tactical display and nodded, even though his commander could not see him. All teams are ready, sir. We have identified the primary command structure and the backup communication centers. Chris had studied alien psychology for 3 months, reading every report from prisoners and captured data files. The Kalos were reptilian predators who had evolved from pack hunters, but their society had become highly structured over thousands of years. They followed orders from superior officers without question, and they did not adapt well when their command structure was disrupted. The plan was simple in concept but required perfect timing. Kate would disable the power systems that kept the alien defense networks running. Chris would eliminate the key officers who coordinated the base defenses. The rest of the team would capture the supply depot and gather intelligence about Kalos, military operations across the sector. Power grid is down, Kate reported. All automated systems are switching to backup power, but it will take them at least 5 minutes to restore full defensive capabilities. The Kalos soldiers in the base immediately knew something was wrong. Emergency lights came on throughout the facility, casting everything in a red glow. Alarm systems that should have been automatic now required manual activation. Door locks that normally responded to biometric scanners had to be opened with physical keys. But the real confusion began when Chris and his team struck at the command center. The Kalos military structure was based on absolute authority from superior to subordinate. Every soldier knew his exact place in the hierarchy and followed orders from officers higher in the chain of command. Chris had studied this system carefully, and he knew exactly which officers to target first. The base commander, General Thrak, was giving orders to his subordinates when the lights went out. In the darkness, he heard the sound of human weapons, firing, and the screams of his communications officers. By the time backup power restored partial lighting to the command center, half of his senior staff was dead or wounded. "Call for reinforcements from the outer perimeter," Thrak ordered his remaining officers. But there was no response from the communication station. "Sir, the communication officers have been eliminated," reported his aide, a young Kalos named Fren. "The backup communication center is also not responding." Thrak felt something he had not experienced in decades of military service. Fear. Not fear of death, which was acceptable for a warrior, but fear of the unknown. How had primitive humans penetrated his fortress so easily? How did they know exactly which systems to attack and which officers to eliminate? Throughout the base, Kalos soldiers found themselves cut off from their commanders and unable to coordinate their response. Some units tried to reach the armory to get heavier weapons. Others attempted to seal off sections of the base to trap the human invaders. A few groups tried to reach the surface to call for help from orbiting ships. All of these efforts failed because the humans had studied Kalos military doctrine for months and knew exactly how they would respond to different types of attacks. Ben and his main assault team reached the supply depot without firing a shot. The Kalos guards had abandoned their posts to respond to the attacks on the command center, leaving the warehouse full of military equipment completely undefended. "Danny, start cataloging everything you can identify," Ben ordered Corporal Danny Lopez, who had been a logistics specialist before the war. "I want to know what kinds of weapons they are storing here and where they came from." Danny began scanning crates of alien equipment with a device that could identify the molecular composition and energy signatures of different materials. "Sir, we have plasma rifles, personal shield generators, and something that looks like portable fusion reactors. There are also data storage devices that might contain tactical information." While Danny worked, Ben walked through the depot, amazed at the quantity of advanced equipment the aliens had stored in this one facility. There were enough weapons here to equip a small army, and some of the technology was more advanced than anything humans had captured before. "Colonel, you need to see this," called out Sergeant Mike Torres from the far end of the warehouse. "These containers are labeled with coordinates for human colony worlds. I think they were planning a major offensive." Ben studied the shipping labels and felt his blood run cold. The aliens had been preparing to attack Earth itself, along with the 12 largest human colonies. The weapons and equipment in this depot were intended to support an invasion force of over 50,000 Kalos soldiers. "How long until our extraction arrives?" Ben asked his communication specialist. "Transport ships will be here in 20 minutes, sir, but we are detecting movement from the outer perimeter guards. They are trying to surround the facility." Ben made a quick decision. "Kate, can you overload their power systems completely? I want this base offline for at least 6 hours. Kate was already working on the power junction again, this time with a different device. "I can cause a cascade failure that will destroy their primary generators. It will take them days to repair the damage, not hours." "Do it." "Chris, begin the extraction procedure. We have what we came for." As the human team prepared to leave, Ben took one last look around the captured supply depot. In 6 months, humanity had gone from being helpless victims to conducting successful raids on heavily defended alien military installations. They had learned to use alien technology, studied alien psychology, and developed tactics that exploited every weakness in alien military doctrine. But most importantly, they had learned to work together as a team in ways that their enemies could not understand or counter. The extraction went smoothly, with transport ships arriving to collect the human team and their captured intelligence. As they flew away from the burning Kalos base, Ben received reports from similar operations across the galaxy. Human forces had successfully raided 17 alien installations in the past week, capturing supplies, gathering intelligence, and proving that humanity was no longer the helpless prey the aliens thought they were hunting. General Korthak received the report about the attack on his supply depot with rage and confusion. How did they know exactly where to strike? He demanded from his surviving officers. How did they understand our command structure well enough to disable our entire defensive network? None of his subordinates had an answer. They could not understand that they were fighting an enemy that treated every battle, every prisoner, and every piece of captured equipment as a source of information. The humans were learning from every encounter, adapting their tactics and sharing that knowledge with every other human unit in the galaxy. The hunt had begun, and the aliens were slowly realizing that they might not be the predators in this war. 1 year after humanity's final warning, Captain Matt Douglas commanded a fleet of 12 human ships that had become the nightmare of every alien convoy in the outer galaxy. They called themselves Wolfpack 7, and for 3 months they had been hunting Nexus Alliance supply lines with deadly efficiency. The aliens had tried everything to stop them. They had sent hunter-killer groups with their fastest ships. They had changed convoy routes every few days. They had even started using fake cargo ships as bait to lure the human raiders into traps. Nothing worked. Matt stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Prowler, watching his tactical display show the locations of his other 11 ships. Each vessel was commanded by a captain who had learned to think like a pack hunter. They did not fight like individual ships trying to win glory. They fought like wolves bringing down prey much larger than themselves. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Ensign Julie Adams from her sensor station. 1 heavy transport with 6 destroyer escorts. They are maintaining standard formation and following the shipping lane toward the Vega system. Matt studied the tactical information on his screen. The Nexus Alliance convoy consisted of 1 massive cargo ship protected by 6 advanced destroyers. Each destroyer was twice the size of any human vessel in his pack, with weapons that could destroy a human ship with a single shot. By any reasonable measure, the convoy should have been able to defeat his entire force, but reasonable measures had stopped applying to human warfare months ago. Linda, what does our intelligence say about Nexus convoy tactics? Matt asked his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Linda Park. Linda consulted her computer files, which contained detailed analysis of hundreds of previous alien convoy operations. Sir, when attacked, Nexus destroyers will form a defensive circle around the transport ship. They will try to use their superior firepower to destroy attackers one at a time. Their doctrine assumes that enemy ships will attack from a single direction and try to fight through their defenses. Matt smiled grimly. Nexus military doctrine was 800 years old and had never failed against any enemy they had encountered. The problem was that humans did not fight like any enemy the aliens had faced before. All ships, this is Wolf Leader. Matt spoke into his communication system. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to end this quickly and move on to the next target. The 12 human ships spread out across several million miles of space, using their stealth systems to become invisible to alien sensors. They did not approach the convoy from one direction like a traditional attack force. Instead, they surrounded the alien ships from every possible angle, using micro-jump technology to position themselves perfectly before the attack began. The Nexus destroyer captains had no warning before the human fleet appeared simultaneously from 12 different directions. Their sensors, which had been scanning empty space moments before, suddenly showed enemy contacts on every side. Enemy ships appearing on all vectors, reported the sensor officer on the lead destroyer. Impossible formation pattern, they are using some kind of stealth technology we have never encountered. Captain Zorak, commanding the convoy escort, tried to implement standard defensive procedures. Form defensive circle around the transport. All ships, target the closest enemy vessel and prepare to fire. But the human ships did not give him time to organize his defenses. The attack lasted exactly 97 seconds from beginning to end. The Prowler and 3 other human ships attacked the destroyer on the port side of the convoy, hitting it with weapons designed specifically to disable Nexus shield generators. While that ship was struggling to restore its defenses, 4 more human vessels struck the destroyers on the starboard side, using tactics that exploited weaknesses in Nexus armor plating. The remaining 4 ships in Matt's pack focused on the convoy's communication systems and navigation equipment, making it impossible for the alien ships to coordinate their response or call for help. By the time the Nexus captains understood what was happening, half of their escort force was disabled, and the massive transport ship was surrounded by human vessels demanding surrender. "This is Captain Matt Douglas of the Human Defense Force," Matt broadcast to the alien convoy. "Your military escort has been neutralized. Surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in the destruction of your entire convoy." Captain Zorak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 97 seconds ago, he had commanded a powerful escort force protecting a valuable cargo shipment. Now his destroyers were drifting helplessly in space, their weapons offline and their shields down. "How is this possible?" he asked his tactical officer. "We outnumbered them. Our ships are more advanced. Our weapons are more powerful." The tactical officer had no answer. The human attack had been unlike anything in Nexus military experience. Instead of fighting like individual ships, the human vessels had moved like parts of a single organism. They had struck simultaneously from multiple directions, targeted specific weaknesses in Nexus technology, and coordinated their assault with precision that should have been impossible. "Sir, we are receiving surrender demands from the human commander," reported the communication officer. "He is giving us 2 minutes to comply before they begin destroying our ships." Zorak had fought in dozens of battles during his long career, but he had never faced an enemy quite like this. The humans had not tried to defeat his force through superior firepower or advanced technology. Instead, they had studied Nexus tactics, identified weaknesses in their defensive formations, and developed attack methods specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. "Signal our surrender," Zorak said quietly. "Prepare the crew for boarding operations." As human Marines transferred the cargo from the Nexus transport to their own ships, Matt received reports from his other captains. The operation had proceeded exactly as planned, with no human casualties and minimal damage to their vessels. "Julie, what are we detecting from the other convoy routes?" Matt asked his sensor officer. Julie checked her long-range scanners and smiled. "Sir, we are receiving reports from Wolfpacks 3, 5, and 9. They have all completed successful attacks on Nexus convoys in the past hour. Total captured cargo includes medical supplies, military equipment, and raw materials worth approximately 50 million credits." Matt nodded with satisfaction. The human fleet had grown from a few hundred ships to several thousand vessels in just 1 year. More importantly, every successful attack provided resources for building more ships, training more crews, and developing better weapons. The aliens were learning that humans did not just fight wars to win individual battles. They fought wars to change the rules of warfare itself. "Set course for the rendezvous point," Matt ordered. "We have 3 more convoys to hit before this sector is clear." As the Wolfpack 7 disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Zorak transmitted his report to Nexus Alliance headquarters. It was the 17th similar report received that day, all describing impossible human attacks that seemed to ignore basic principles of space combat. Admiral Nexus reviewed the reports with growing concern. The humans were not just winning individual battles. They were systematically destroying the Alliance's ability to move supplies and reinforcements across the galaxy. Their attacks were so frequent and so successful that many convoy captains were refusing to leave port without massive military escorts. "How many ships have we lost to human raiders this month?" Nexus asked his intelligence chief. 47 merchant vessels and 31 military escorts, sir. The humans are attacking our convoys faster than we can organize new ones. At this rate, our supply lines will collapse within 3 months. Nexus studied the tactical reports, trying to understand how a species that had been nearly helpless 1 year ago had become such an effective fighting force. The answer was disturbing. The humans were not just adapting to alien technology and tactics. They were improving on them, finding weaknesses that the aliens themselves had never noticed, and developing new methods of warfare that turned alien advantages into vulnerabilities. Send a message to High Admiral Vex and General Korthak. Nexus ordered. Request an immediate meeting of the Alliance Military Council. We need to discuss a coordinated response to the human threat. For the first time in 800 years, the most advanced military alliance in the galaxy was admitting that they faced an enemy they did not know how to defeat. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were beginning to understand that some warnings should never be ignored. High Admiral Vex stood in the ruins of his command bridge, watching through the broken windows as human ships methodically destroyed what remained of the greatest military fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. The Battle of Wolf 359 was supposed to be the final demonstration of alien superiority. Instead, it had become a monument to the price of ignoring human warnings. Around him, the bridge crew lay dead or wounded among the wreckage of their stations. Emergency lights flickered in the smoke-filled air, and the sound of explosions echoed through the dying ship as human forces continued their systematic destruction of the combined alien armada. Admiral, human boarding parties have reached Deck 7, reported his communication officer, blood streaming from a cut on his crystalline forehead. They are requesting your surrender. Vex could hardly believe what had happened in the past 6 hours. The combined fleets of the Zephyrian Empire, the Kalos Federation, and the Nexus Alliance had numbered over 3,000 ships. They had brought together the most advanced technology from 3 different civilizations, commanded by officers with centuries of military experience. The human fleet that opposed them had barely 800 vessels. Yet somehow the aliens were losing. Not just losing a battle, but being completely destroyed by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive just 2 years ago. How? Vex whispered, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete collapse of his forces. How did they defeat us? The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Jake Harrison materialized on the bridge in a column of blue light, transported from one of the human ships. He was flanked by 2 Marines in advanced armor, but he carried no weapons and made no threatening gestures. Jake looked older than he had in the transmission from 2 years ago. His hair was grayer, his face more lined with worry and exhaustion. But his eyes were calm and steady as he surveyed the destruction around him. Admiral Vex, Jake said quietly, I believe you asked for our surrender 2 years ago. We declined your offer then, and we are declining it now. Vex tried to stand straighter, despite his injuries. Your technology was centuries behind ours. Your ships were crude metal boxes. Your weapons could not penetrate our shields. How did you become so powerful so quickly? Jake walked over to one of the shattered alien control stations, running his hand along the crystalline surface. We were behind you in technology, that's true. But you made one crucial mistake. You assumed that we would stay behind you. On the main view screen, the battle continued to rage outside. Human ships moved through the alien formations like wolves hunting deer, striking with precision and coordination that seemed impossible for vessels commanded by different captains. They did not fight like individual ships trying to win personal glory. They fought like parts of a single deadly organism. Every time you attacked one of our colonies, we learned something new, Jake continued. Every ship you captured, every piece of equipment you left behind, every prisoner exchange we made. You taught us how your technology worked, how your tactics operated, how your command structures functioned. General Korthak appeared on the bridge, limping from wounds received when his own flagship had been destroyed. His reptilian features were twisted with pain and confusion. But our technology was superior. Our weapons were more advanced. Our ships were faster and stronger. They were, Jake agreed. But you forgot something important about humans. We don't just use technology. We improve it. We adapt it. We find ways to make it work better than the people who originally built it. Admiral Nexus flickered into existence as a holographic projection, transmitted from his dying command ship. This is impossible. Our combined fleets have never been defeated. Our alliance has conquered half the galaxy. Jake turned to face the three alien commanders who had rejected humanity's peaceful warnings 2 years ago. Your alliance conquered species that fought the way you expected them to fight. Species that used similar technology and similar tactics. Species that fought for territory or resources or political control. He gestured toward the view screen, where human ships continued their relentless destruction of alien forces. But we don't fight for territory. We don't fight for resources. We fight for something much more dangerous. What? Vex asked, genuinely confused. We fight to survive, Jake said simply. And when humans fight for survival, we don't stop until the threat is completely eliminated. The alien commanders stood in stunned silence as the full implications of Jake's words sank in. They had started this war expecting to face a primitive enemy that would surrender quickly when faced with superior force. Instead, they had awakened something that they could not understand or control. Look at your tactical displays, Jake said. What do you see? Vex glanced at his shattered instruments, where emergency power still provided basic sensor readings. I see our fleets being destroyed. I see human ships that move faster than our sensors can track. I see weapons that penetrate our shields as if they were not there. You see 3 years of human adaptation, Jake corrected. Every battle taught us something new. Every captured ship gave us better technology. Every failed alien attack showed us a new weakness to exploit. Korthak snarled in frustration. What do you want from us? What are your terms for ending this war? Jake's expression softened slightly, and for a moment he looked like the same man who had tried to prevent this conflict 2 years ago. The same thing we wanted when this started. We want you to leave our people alone. We want you to stop attacking our colonies. We want you to release our prisoners and withdraw from our territory. And if we refuse? Nexus asked. Jake gestured, again toward the view screen, where the systematic destruction of the alien fleets continued. Then we will keep hunting you. Across every star system, around every planet, through every nebula where you think you can hide. We will hunt you until you understand that humans don't start wars for conquest or glory. He paused, meeting each alien commander's gaze in turn. We start wars to end them permanently. The silence stretched for long moments as the alien leaders absorbed the full meaning of humanity's transformation from prey to predator. Outside, the last of the great alien armada was surrendering or being destroyed by human forces that had learned to fight with a coordination and efficiency that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. What guarantee do we have that you will honor a peace agreement? Vex asked finally. The same guarantee you gave us 2 years ago when we asked for peace, Jake replied. None. But we have something you don't. What? We have proven that we keep our promises. 2 years ago, we promised to defend ourselves if you continued attacking our people. Today, you are seeing the result of that promise. The surrender negotiations took 12 hours to complete. The Galactic Council officially recognized human sovereignty over all territories humans had settled. They agreed to pay massive reparations for the unprovoked attacks on human colonies. Most importantly, they agreed to establish permanent diplomatic channels to prevent future conflicts. But the real lesson had already been learned by every species in the galaxy. The humans had given a fair warning before the war began. They had offered peace, negotiation, and compromise. When those offers were rejected with contempt and violence, they had responded with a determination and adaptability that had shocked the entire galaxy. As Jake prepared to return to his ship, Admiral Vex asked one final question. Will humans ever forgive us for what we did to your colonies? Jake considered the question carefully before answering. Humans have long memories, Admiral, but we also understand that wars must end if civilizations are to survive. We will honor our agreements as long as you honor yours. He paused at the transport pad, looking back at the alien commanders one last time. But if you ever threaten human civilians again, remember this day. Remember what happens when you ignore a warning from a species that spent millions of years climbing to the top of their food chain. The transport beam activated, carrying Jake back to his ship. The war was over, but the galaxy would never forget. The lesson humanity had taught. Some warnings should be taken seriously, especially when they come from a species that had never learned how to surrender.